Panama, union leaders announced a continuation of the strike and mobilization at national level as a response to the austerity measures announced by President Laurentino Cortizo. In Turkey, the Russian delegation presented a package of proposals for exports of Ukrainian grain across the Black Sea. In Sri Lanka, authorities declared a state of emergency to contain protests against the political crisis in the country. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Panama, union leaders rejected tech products, including in price control, and announced a continuation of the strike. The strike, which covers several provinces of the Central American nations, such as the capital, Santiago de Veragua, Chiriquí, and Colón, among others, is against the high prices of fuels, the basic family basket, and against what it qualifies as poor management of the cabinet led by President Laurentino Cortizo. Demonstrators demanded from the government a concrete answer to 32 demands presented in the context of a tense situation and inflation. The leaders of the Constitution Union, Saul Mendes, pointed out of the accumulated problems are the results of a neoliberal model imposed by economic elites.
You can be guaranteed and certain that the people will not surrender, and they will not give up because they are fed up with the robbery, corruption, and the high cost of living. People are tired of being humiliated, drowned in misery to benefit the interests that you protect through the security forces, the economic power, and those who govern who are your puppets. The construction workers stand strong, united, and disciplined. Tomorrow there is a strike and we're going to execute it, and we are going to mobilize in the streets on the whole country. To all the people of Panama, stand united. Do not be intimidated and defend your right to a dignified life. That is the demand, a dignified life for all.
During the last day, the union organizations mobilized to the National Assembly to demand a reduction in the price of fuel and in cost of living. Workers called for an indefinite work stoppage until their demands are met. In Ecuador, the government and the social movements began the first expanded dialogue table to address the demands that led to the national strike. According to local media, these dialogue tables will last no longer than 90 days and will be supervised by the national government from the portfolios responsible for each table, and the 10 points demands by the demonstrators will also be discussed. The tables were established at the headquarters of the Caribbean Bishops' Conference and were attended by the head of Finance and Natural Resources, Production and Public Works portfolios. During the event, the president of the Confederation of Indigenous Nationalities of Ecuador, Leonidas Issa, warning that despite establishment of dialogue tables, the persecution and disqualification of the demonstrators continues. The Prime Minister of Belize, John Antonio Briceño, stated that Caricon asked the United States to ease the oil sanctions against Venezuela.
Good news is that we've been talking through CARICOM to Venezuela and to the United States about asking the United States to ease up some of its restrictions with Venezuela, and that we may have an opportunity to get the Petrocaribe program going once again. Maybe it might not be as generous as it was before, but we're still looking at maybe like paying 70 cents on the dollar or something like that. But that by itself is going to be a big help should we be able to convince the Americans to ease up on the restrictions that they have against Venezuela.
In an exclusive interview for Los Narias hosted by Patricia Villegas, the former leader of the Podemos political party, Pablo Iglesias, spoke about a disinformation campaign against him and his party promoted by the sectors of the Spanish media.
In that meeting, it turns out that one of the policemen, Villarejo, is recording what's being said. Villarejo later went to jail, and it seems that he tried to take revenge on one of his former allies and made those audios public. What do we hear in this conversation? We heard that a month before these elections, the director of a left-wing network says, "I have information that a friend of mine, who is the director of a right-wing tabloid, has given me, that says that Pablo Iglesias has an account in Grenadines in his mother's name, where Nicolas Maduro has paid him $200,000. I know that is a lie. I know that this information is false, but I have told Eduardo Inda, the right-wing journalist who has given me the information, that although I know that it is a lie, I'm going to put it on my channel, and of course I'm going to give a word to Pablo Iglesias."
The former leader of Podemos elaborated about it. These mafia schemes, I need Republic to know the truth.
To reveal that there's a journalistic mafia in Spain benefits the public. The main thing in order to correct a mafia scheme so that criminal, political, and in this case media responsibilities can be clarified is that people know the truth. People have been able to see who Ferreira really is. I think it is good news for Spanish society, and I think that the fact that there has been a movement of solidarity in Latin America, even 5 Latin American presidents have shown solidarity with us, reveals that the practice of media lawfare is something that affects democratic and left-wing political leaders in many countries. What Ferreira tried to do to us was trying to sell information that we knew was false, a hoax, a fake news, saying that I had an account in a tax haven where Nicolas Maduro put money in. They have done it. They have done this to Petro. They have done it to Boris. They have done it to Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, to Alberto Fernandez. They have done it to López Obrador, and they have done it to many leftist leaders.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. Turkey, the Russian delegation presented a package of proposals for the export of Ukrainian grain across the Black Sea in the middle of negotiations between Moscow, Ankara, Kiev, and the United Nations. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov said the proposal was submitted to Turkey, Ukraine, and the United Nations in order to solve the problem without delay. In this regard, Konashenkov points out that in case of a consensus, Istanbul, the United Nations will supervise implementations of the agreed mechanism. Moscow wants to control and inspect ships leaving the ports in order to rule out arms smuggling and prevent provocations by Kiev, while Ukraine refuses to clear the ports. The Russian government warned on Wednesday of the risk of attempting to cap the prices of energy supplies from Russia. The Prime Minister authorities point out that the new scheme proposed by the West to limit the prices of Russian oil and gas could aggravate the energy crisis and increase the price of cotizations on international stock exchanges. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs also stressed that the Kremlin is under no obligation to follow the new price plan. The Moscow government also described the plan suggested by the US and the European Union as a new element of the West's psychological warfare to awaken Russia because of the conflict in the Ukrainian territory. The North Korean government announced on Wednesday to recognize the independence of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. President of the Donetsk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, added that this decision will become the basis of further development of economic relations between the two countries. He also thanked the Democratic People's Republic of Korea for the support to the Donbass people, points out a decision as a diplomatic victory. Earlier, Syria also announced its decision to recognize the independence of the People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, as a result of which Kiev have severe diplomatic relations with Damascus. The U.S. government announced on Wednesday that inflation rose to 9.1% in June and remains the highest in 40 years. According to the report, consumer prices accelerated in the last months as gasoline and food prices remains elevated, resulting in the largest annual increase in inflation in 4 decades. The data increase indicate that the U.S. Federal Reserve will likely have to maintain the monetary policies of rate hikes and bond sales without any possible of slowing. Liquidity restrictions could continue to affect the stock market as well as rents, consumer spending, and corporate profitability, making the agency's goal of lower inflation more difficult. Former White House Security Advisor John Bolton confessed on Tuesday to have helped to plan coup d'etat in different countries. During a televised interview in which he referred to Donald Trump's responsibility in the attack on the Capitol, the U.S. diplomat affirmed that overthrowing a government is a lot of work.
On our democracy. It's Donald Trump looking out for Donald Trump. It's a once-in-a-lifetime occurrence.
I don't know that I agree with you. To be fair, with all due respect, one doesn't have to be brave to attempt a coup.
I disagree with that. As somebody who has helped plan coup d'etat, not here, but other places, it takes a lot of work, and that's not what he did. It was just stumbling around from one idea to another. Ultimately, he did unleash the rioters at the Capitol. As to that, there's no doubt. But not to overthrow the Constitution, to buy more time to throw the matter back to the states to try and redo the issue.
British Conservative MPs held the first of a round of votes on Wednesday to elect the politician who will replace Boris Johnson as Tory leader on British Prime Minister. 6 candidates remain in running to replace UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson after Wednesday's first round of voting to Conservative Party announced with Finance Minister Najib Sahawi and former Foreign Minister Jeremy Hunt eliminated. Rishi Sunak, who quit as finance minister last week to trigger Johnson's downfall, led a pact with the support of 88 Tory PMs, followed by Nancy Pelosi on 67, who polling shows is the most popular with a party membership that will ultimately decide the race. British troops kills thousands of civilians in suspicious circumstances during a 6-month military operation in Afghanistan, according to BBC. Investigations indicates that these were false positives. According to recently released military reports, a British Special Air Service squadron allegedly killed at least 54 unarmed people between 2010 and 2011 in the Central Asian country. The killings were allegedly carried out as part of a kill or capture mission to arrest Taliban commanders. According to the sources cited, the military placed AK-47 rifles at the scene to justify the killing of more men and thus achieve a higher number of enemy killed. Greek authorities are examining the fire that broke out early on Wednesday morning at the headquarters of the Daily Real News. The building is to be found north of Athens in the city of Marousi, and the fire has left serious material damage, while witnesses report that explosions were heard. It should be noted that an explosive device was found in a staircase outside the building between the ground floor and the first floor. Fire brigade said that the fire is under control and the Unitary Service has also been informed of the situation. On the other hand, the information of the Royal Group said that this could have been due to the hunger strike of the anarchist prisoner, the Yanis Michelides. The World Health Organization registered on Tuesday nearly 9,200 confirmed cases of monkeypox in 63 countries around the world. According to the Director General of the National Organization, Tedros Adhanom, several of the infections linked to the disease have not shown the clinical symptoms typically described for monkeypox. Meanwhile, he points out that the typical characteristics described include the presentation of only a few or even a single sore, sources that start in the genital or perineal area and do not extend beyond there. The health authority specified that in view of the situation, an emergency committee will be convened next week to modify the strategy to deal with the monkeypox and, if it's necessary, to declare it as a health problem of international concern. We have more news coming up after this final short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Sri Lanka, authorities declare a state of emergency to contain protests and the political crisis in the country. The government opted for the measure after the resignation of the president and the prime minister did not contain the demonstrations of unconformity. Among the measures approved, a curfew was imposed throughout the country until 5 a.m. in the morning. The crisis in Sri Lanka is a result of a prolonged decline in the economic situation, which prevents the majority of the population from having access to the most basic products and services. Palestinian activists and organizations will hold a massive march next Thursday against Joe Biden's visits. Hundreds of Palestinians are expected to demonstrate in Al-Manara Square in the city of Ramallah to express their rejection of the humiliation policies of the U.S. president toward the Palestinian question. Demonstrators will also announce Washington's support to Israeli-occupied regime. President Biden arrived in Tel Aviv this Wednesday afternoon local time and at a heavy political deployment. President Biden will meet with the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas in Berlin on Thursday.
Biden's main objective in the region is to try to form a military coalition that will serve the interests of a Zionist regime and not at all the interests of the Arab countries or any other country. Biden's visit seeks to confirm the position of the Israelis in the region.
U.S. President Joe Biden has arrived in Israel as part of his Middle East tour. The first country on this tour is Israel, where Biden was met by top government officials who seek at strengthening bilateral relations. Biden will remain on Israel until Thursday, and on Friday he will continue to Palestine and Saudi Arabia, all while negligenting the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And Biden's visit to the Middle East, Palestinian activists have called for massive demonstrations in the city of Ramallah to protest against Washington's support to Israel, and it continues with illegal occupations of the Palestinian territory. In Bangladesh, the death toll from the devastating floods rises to 118. According to the Health Service's General Director, these 2 more bodies were recovered in the last 24 hours. The total number of deaths due to the floods caused by torrential rains is reported 91 people drowned, 15 were struck by lightning, 2 died from snake bites, and 10 others from other reasons. According to local media, the total number of deaths was recorded between May 17 and July 13. teleSUR English continued to grow. ECN now reaches Europe, and you can order it from your cable dealer or tune it yourself. These parameters that you see on the screen are in place since July the 1st, and quite soon further changes will be implemented for the signal in the Middle East and Africa. More than ever, the world connects to us, and our stories are being heard all around the globe. This news multi-platform will continue providing trustful content to oppose the Yemeni's media's narrative and our faithfulness to our audience. Oh, that's the story. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. The teleSUR English, I'm from the South. I'm Ana Marrero, and thank you for watching.